If I could go back and talk to my younger self, like early 20s me, there are a few things that I wish I could tell myself straight up. Now, if you guys are new to my channel, I'm currently 25 years old, trying to figure out my finances and just life in general. And there's stuff that I just wish I figured out earlier. Things that would have saved me years of just stress, confusion, and overall just wasted time. Because in your 20s, you're going to come to find out that it's this weird mix of freedom and pressure. You've got all the time in the world, but you also feel like you're already behind because everyone around you is going to tell you, hey, enjoy the moment, live your life. But they're also going to tell you to plan your whole future at the same time, right? Your 20s are about mixing enjoying life, but also planning everything ahead. So in this video, it's not about being perfect or having it all figured out. It's just what I wish someone told me when I was trying to find direction. I want to stay disciplined and just not lose myself along the way. So let's get into the video. And quick side note, usually I play Rocket League over these videos. I'm putting some Battlefield 6 up because I've been really enjoying Battlefield 6. I've been grinding. I used to be a huge Battlefield guy, so it feels like Battlefield is back in the right direction. I've been really enjoying it. But anyway, the first thing that I wish someone had told me is time is going to be your most valuable asset, right? But here's the trick. You're not going to realize it at all, probably. When you're in your 20s, it feels like you have endless amounts of time. Like you can just mess around, do whatever you want, and you're going to figure it out later. But the problem is, later comes really fast, and it comes a lot faster than most people like to admit. The habits that you build right now, how you spend your evenings, who you hang out with, what you do when no one's watching, all of that compounds quietly in the background. And you're not going to see it right away, which is why most people waste it. But 5 years from now, that compound effect's going to hit really hard. Either, you've been building something you're proud of, or you've been drifting and wondering why absolutely nothing in your life is changing. And if there's one thing I could tell my younger self about this, is stop killing time and start investing it. Because the one thing you never get back, the one thing none of us can ever get back in life is time. But it's also the one thing that can absolutely multiply everything else you use it for correctly. We have so much time on our hands, but especially in your early 20s, so much of that time is spent wasted. And once again, like I mentioned in the beginning of the video, everyone's telling us to enjoy it. And while I'm not coming on here and I'm telling you guys to not enjoy your time, it's just one of those things that we really have to dial in how we spend most of our time, right? Not wasting most of our time, doing things that are good for our health, our spiritual health, our mental health, our financial health, whatever health you're interested in. Do things in your 20s that are going to promote that. The next thing that I wish someone had told me is money is freedom. It is not your status. In your early 20s, money will absolutely feel like a scoreboard. You think about what car you drive, what brand you wear, where you go out. These are all things I fell for. But that feeling of people thinking that's cool, that fades so fast. The real flex is not showing off. It's being able to make smart financial choices. Look, money buys freedom. Freedom to say no to jobs you hate, freedom to take breaks, freedom to walk away from situations that just drain you. And I wish I knew saving money wasn't about being cheap. So often you hear that, oh, saving money is about being a cheap person. It's not. It's about buying your future flexibility. And the biggest lesson is you don't need to make a lot of money. You just need to manage what you make well. Most people will spend everything trying to look successful instead of using that same money to actually become successful. I mentioned this in one of my previous videos and a lot of people took it the wrong way. I talked about me versus a couple of my friends. At the time, I was making a lot less money than a lot of my friends, but I was doing better financially than a lot of my friends. And it's not because they had rent and I didn't. It's not because this and that. It's simply because they spent their money and didn't invest, and I saved my money and invested. You literally don't need to make a lot of money to do better when it comes to financial situations than a lot of people around you. So start small, learn how to budget, invest, live below your means, because every dollar you do not waste today is $1 that's going to buy you freedom later. And I'm telling you, if you think, someone's cool for having a sports car, or someone's cool for having this car or wearing these clothes, I promise you they're not. At the end of the day, that stuff does not matter. I get being into cars, I get being into clothing, I get being into certain things. But if you're strictly just buying those things to flex, to show it off, Your money is so much better spent in different places. Think about buying a $60,000 car. If you're buying a $60,000 car to show off versus taking that $60,000 and investing it to really build financial freedom, you're putting your money in the wrong spot. The next thing I wish someone told me is discipline will beat motivation every single time. In my early 20s, I always was waiting for motivation. I thought I had to feel inspired to go to the gym, feel inspired to start a business, learn a new skill. But motivation will never last. The most motivation has ever lasted in me was maybe a couple days. Motivation is literally a mood you feel. The people who win long term, they don't rely on motivation. They rely on discipline. Because when they don't feel like showing up, they do it anyway. And discipline is not about being intense. It's not about being David Goggins. It's about being consistent. It's just doing what needs to be done even when it's boring, right? That's what builds momentum. Motivation definitely is a good spark to get you started, but discipline is the actual engine that is going to keep you moving forward when that spark fades. And once you prove to yourself that you can do things without feeling like it because you're disciplined, well, then at that point, you can build that confidence that changes how you move through life. The next thing is people around you shape everything. In your 20s, you start to realize how much your environment matters. The people you hang around with will slowly pull you in their direction, for better or for worse. If your circle spends their weekends complaining, gossiping, making excuses, you're going to start to do the same. If you're surrounded by people who push you, who talk about growth and ideas and accountability, well, that energy is going to rub off on you too. So you don't need a massive friend group. You just need a few real friends who remind you of your potential and not try to limit you. And when it comes to relationships, who you date matters a lot. The wrong person will absolutely drain your energy. They'll distract your focus. And have you questioning just your overall goals. But the right person, they're going to make you feel a lot better. They're going to make you feel more grounded in those goals. So choose people who give you peace of mind, who feel normal and not just chaotic and add, unknowing stress to your life. The next thing is, and this should be a no-brainer, but take care of your health. When you're young, you can get away with eating so much garbage, sleeping 4 hours a night, going to bed at 3 in the morning, skipping workouts. But all of that stuff is going to catch up very quick. And you don't realize how much your energy, focus, and confidence come from your health until it's gone. Working out is not about just looking good, right? It's about having energy to actually live your life. It's about mental clarity. I know a lot of people who work out just strictly because it makes them feel better mentally. I used to think I didn't have time for it. And the truth is, a lot of the times I still make that excuse. But being unhealthy costs way more time later on in your life. And it's also very expensive if you're unhealthy. You can't build wealth and chase dreams if you're constantly tired, you're constantly unwell, you're constantly sick. It just will never work. So the best investment that you can make in your 20s is not stocks, it's not cryptocurrency, it's your body. Because if you don't take care of it, nothing else is going to work. Now, number 6, this is a huge one, but stop comparing your timeline to everyone else's. This is still one that I fall into the trap of doing. When you look around, you're going to see people your age doing things you wish you were doing, making money you wish you were making, traveling, getting promoted, getting married, buying houses. And suddenly you're going to look at your life and you'll be like, man, I'm behind. But what you don't see is the full story. Everyone's playing different games. Everyone has different amounts of financial help. Everyone has different backgrounds. Some people, are going to have that help. Some people are going to be struggling privately. Some people are going to peak early and maybe taper off. You can't compare your chapter to someone else's chapter 10, 11, 12, whatever it might be. Once you stop obsessing over where everyone else is, you start focusing on where you're going. That's why social media is so bad. It's unnatural for humans to see each other's progress through life because it can definitely make us feel bad about where we're at. And when you start to focus on where you're going, that's when your progress is going to start to feel real because you're not chasing someone else's definition of success. And there's been plenty of times, like I said, I still struggle with this a lot where, I look at someone who's younger than me by 5 years. So they're, 20 years old and they're driving the car I want. They might have the house I want. They might have that $100,000 job already. And the more I think about it, it bothers me. But that's why I just choose not to think about it. It's my life. I have to work at my life. I have to, grow for myself, and I can't let other people's successes, drag me down. Number 7 is skills compound faster than degrees, but also choose your degrees wisely. So school teaches you a lot, do not get me wrong, but it doesn't always teach you how to think, right? It doesn't teach you how to communicate, it doesn't teach you how to adapt. It teaches you very technical skills. And I wish I spent more of my time in my early 20s learning skills that are actually going to compound, right? Things like communication, problem solving, public speaking is a huge one I still struggle with, and understanding just how money works. And those skills will never expire, and they're gonna make you valuable in any job, any economy, any business, right? Now, the other thing I will say, and this was a piece of advice that I got from a previous employer who's a family friend, and I always think about this advice because it really helped me in life. I was gonna go to school for my business degree. And while I decided to go to school for my business degree, I was currently a manager at a company. And I remember he called me because he had a technical job open for me. He had a data analyst job open for me. And he called me and he said, "Why are you going to go to school for a business degree? You're already a manager. You don't need a business degree." He said, "If you're going to go to school, you're going to pay the money for a degree. Make it a technical degree. Make it something that not everyone has." So I decided that was great advice, and I went to school for programming, computer science and programming. And I can tell you right now, that degree title has set me apart in my current field from so many people who have just general business degrees. And it's not even because I'm good at programming or I'm a great coder. I promise you I'm not. It's just the fact that having a technical degree like that proves you can go to school and you can learn something at a higher level versus having a degree in communication, business, human resources. Now, I'm not talking bad about those degrees. I'm just saying if you're going to go to school and you're going to spend the money on these expensive degrees, make sure you're getting it in something technical and something that jobs are going to look at and be like, wow, this is very impressive that you have this type of degree. Number 8 is peace is the biggest flex you're ever going to have in life. When you're younger, you think success is about materialistic things, right? It's about cars, it's about followers, expensive stuff. But as you get older, and I'm 25, I'm not even old, but you realize the real flex in life is just peace, right? Peace is waking up without anxiety. It's waking up without needing to prove anything to anybody. It's about being able to enjoy your life without consistently comparing and explaining yourself. And you don't get peace from buying things. You get it from alignment, from living in a way that is going to match your values, from having discipline, from saying no to things that are just going to drain you. And the older I get, the more I realize that peace is the definition of wealth. If you can build that in your 20s, no matter what you're doing financially, no matter what car you drive, no matter anything, you're already winning, I promise you. I will say the more I get my finances dialed in, the quote-unquote less cool of a car I drive, the quote-unquote less I spend money on designer clothing and materialistic things, the more just at peace I feel. I don't feel like I'm running this, race anymore, trying to keep up with everybody. I'm doing my own thing. I'm, saving my money. I'm investing. I'm living a stress-free life. And that's the biggest winner that anyone can have in their 20s. Now, this is another one that I really struggle with to this day still, but you don't need to have it all figured out. If you're 18, you're 19, you're 20, 21, 22, whatever it might be, you do not need to have your life figured out. But everyone, parents, teachers, schools, friends, they're all going to tell you that you need to have it figured out, but you don't. I used to stress about this nonstop, right? Feeling like I needed to know, okay, what career path am I going to do? When am I going to have kids? When am I going to get married? When am I going to do this? When am I going to do that? But the truth is, no one has it figured out. And I've completely stopped stressing about that. I'm one of those people, I like to believe everything happens for a reason. Everyone's on a different timeline. I don't worry about when I'm going to get married. I don't worry about when I'm going to have kids. I don't worry about when I'm going to get promoted next. Because it's all going to happen at some point in my life, right? And we just all have to be fluid with our timeline. And most people, still to this day, no matter what age you are, they're figuring out life as they go. Your 20s are not about knowing all the answers. But I will say they are about, maybe asking better questions, trying to figure out how to navigate life, right? But what do I enjoy doing? That's a good question to ask in your 20. What drains me? What do I hate doing? That's another good action or a question. And what kind of life do I actually want to build? Those are all good questions that can get you to an answer, but you don't need to have it figured out. And I'm telling you, you don't even need like a 5-year plan. Sometimes putting those, restraints on yourself or those time periods on yourself can actually make you more stressed. You just need to move intentionally, learn as you go and keep adjusting. Because look, let's be honest, you're never going to feel ready. But if you keep showing up, life will start to make a little bit more sense. And the last thing that I wish someone told me in my early 20s is the compound effect is real, but not just in finances, in everything. The small things add up in both directions. Every day, you read, you save, you exercise, you stay consistent, you learn. Man, you're compounding quietly. But every day, you skip working out, you procrastinate, you waste, you have bad habits, you smoke, you drink. Well, you're also compounding quietly. But one's in a good direction, one's in a bad direction. And the thing is, you're never going to see it day over day. You're never going to see it week over week. But as the years go by, you're really going to start to feel that massive difference. So your 20s are where those small daily choices start forming who you become. It's not about being perfect, but it's about just being aware of what you're doing. Now, my biggest advice to you guys, and once again, some people don't like to agree with this, but my biggest advice, another thing I'd recommend, is if you can quit drinking and quit smoking in your 20s, if you are currently drinking or smoking, those two things will set you up for your future, because those are going to build habits that you can quit something and you can replace those bad habits with good habits. And a lot of people in their 20s like to believe the only way I can have fun on weekends or the only way I can enjoy anything is if I'm drinking. And I promise you, that's not the case. So do more of what moves you forward and less of what's going to keep you stuck. It's literally that simple. So if I could sum it up, it's this. Your 20s aren't about having everything figured out. They're about becoming the person you eventually will be. You're supposed to learn new things. You're supposed to mess up. You're supposed to adjust. You're supposed to try again and probably mess up again and repeat those steps. The only mistakes you can really make is just coasting. It's not trying anything new. It's not experiencing new things. It's not putting yourself in uncomfortable situations, right? Just existing without intention is a big mistake you can make. So slow down, focus on who you're becoming, and remember, the things that matter most are going to take time, right? So if you guys found this helpful, hit the like button, drop a comment with one lesson that hit you the most, and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Have a good day.